Sup you beautiful people. Hope you've had a fantastic day. Welcome back to a brand new episode of What If Deku Wielded One for All Without Limits. If you guys enjoy this what if, comment down below and let me know. And go ahead and check out other what ifs in the channel. After watching this video, don't forget to shower some appreciation onto the incredible author responsible for this fanfiction. The link is conveniently waiting for you in the description box down below. Before we get into it though, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So let's start this video. I am an idiot, thought Izuku to himself as he stared blankly at the roof of his room as he rested his head on his mattress while he sat on the floor, the position being that uncomfortable because of the fluffy rug that covered the entire floor. At the moment, the only indication that Izuku was alive was the gentle up and down movement of his chest as he breathed and the occasional blink from his eyes. Just what was I thinking when I destroyed the damn thing? I could have just as easily grabbed Ochako-chan and got her out of harm's way and I still would have been accepted at UA. He sighed in sadness, knowing that once again he had let his body move on its own and trusted his instincts when the time to save someone in grave danger came. In hindsight, he knew that he was capable of handling the situation without jeopardizing his chances at being accepted at UA. But there were a few things to consider, all of them dealing with Izuku's very nature. The fact that had he only moved in to get Ochako out of the way would have left the other examinees defenseless against the overwhelming might of the Times Zero pointer, which would have surely resulted in them getting grievous injuries and likely worse. Not only that, but merely being by the villain counted as facing it, so those that would have gotten hurt by the villain would have also gotten their points deducted to zero, denying them even the chance of getting in. When he moved in to intervene, Izuku had subconsciously known this and his body acted on what he thought was the best thing that could be done in order to help everyone. Sacrifice only his chances at getting into the school to make sure that Ochako and the others weren't seriously harmed, and they also kept their chances at getting in. At the end of the day, what was the fate of only one person compared to that of another 39s? And as much as Izuku wanted to be angry at the unfairness of it all, and even the other examinees, he just couldn't. They had all been warned about the consequences of facing the trap villain. Heck, they were even told that they would start to rampage if a crowd formed near where it was, and most of the other examinees went and did just that. Izuku truthfully had every right to be angry at whomever he wanted, but even the possibility of him feeling that was eclipsed by the deep sadness and disappointment in himself that he was currently feeling. And yet, a rueful smile appeared on his face as tears gathered at the corners of his eyes. I was still able to do the right thing even when that meant that the consequences were going to be bad for me. Knowing that, I can't help feeling somewhat glad that things turned out like that. Despite the sadness and the bitterness and the disappointment, Izuku was extremely glad that he was able to stay true to himself and his ideals, subconsciously or not, even when that meant that he was going to get the short end of the stick. At the end of the day, that was who he truly was. Someone that just wanted to do everything in his power to help others. As long as I remain true to myself, I guess that I can't be too sad, huh? There are other hero schools I can still apply to after all. I really wanted to go with Momo-chan, and Ochako-chan too, but I guess that's not to be, he thought in resignation as he sighed and lifted his head from the bed and let it fall forward until his chin was resting against his upper chest as tears began to trail down his face. I know that. And I am aware of exactly what I am feeling and why. But still, why doesn't this painful tightness in my chest go away? Knock knock. Izuku-kun? Ha! Izuku blinked in shock as he turned towards the door after someone knocked on it, and not a second later hearing Momo's muffled and hesitant voice coming from the other side. The hell? Was I so affected by what happened that I wasn't even paying attention to Mantra's passive feed of information? This has never happened before. What is wrong me? He thought to himself furiously, shaking his head and focusing. Yes? He answered back, questioning. He would have wondered why she was here the very next day after failing the exams, but seeing that his mother was not 10 feet away from her and looking worried, his question was answered before he could even ask it. There was a pause before Momo spoke again. Can I come in? I want to speak with you, she said gently from the other side. For a moment, Izuku was tempted to tell her no, not wanting to see the disappointed and pitying look on her face. But those thoughts quickly went away after he realized just how ridiculous they were. If Momo was in any way disappointed in him, She would not have come to see him in the first place, let alone speak to him with such a caring gentleness that the painful tightness in chest receded just a little. He sighed in defeat. "Yeah, come on in," he called, drying his tears promptly with the sleeves of his shirt. Barely 2 seconds later, Momo opened the door gently, and her heart broke a little when she saw Izuku, someone she knew to be very upbeat, sitting on the floor and supporting his upper body against his bed with his eyes a bit red from crying. The downtrodden look on his face, which she was a bit glad to notice perked up a bit when he saw her, did not suit him at all. "Oh, Izuku-kun," she said to him before she went and sat next to him, wrapping her arms around him and bringing him for a hug. At first, Izuku blushed as she felt Momo's very mature body pressed against him thanks to the tight hug she was giving him. But then he became aware that she was trying to comfort him, and those traitorous thoughts went to the back burner for the moment as he let himself be hugged by whom he considered his very first friend his age and someone with whom he felt he had a real connection. What with their like for academics and their genuine desire to use their quirks to help others. Already feeling a bit better thanks to the contact, Izuku responded to the hug in kind and let his head rest on Momo's shoulder. Inko hesitantly peeked her head, and what she saw made her sigh in relief and gave an internal squeal of delight as she saw Momo and Izuku hugging each other, with Izuku sporting a small smile as he rested his head on her shoulder while she ran her hands through his hair in a comforting fashion. They looked so cute like that, and Inko was tempted to take a picture, but knowing that it was not the time, she just mentally thanked the gods above them for allowing Izuku to meet Momo, because she truly thought that the girl was the only one that could get Izuku out of his funk. Wishing her good luck, she silently left. Izuku had, naturally, felt what his mother did, and he sighed internally in relief when she didn't do anything to embarrass him in front of Momo. A few seconds later they ended the hug and Izuku, with a small blush on his face, looked away. "Thank you," he murmured, but the heartfelt tone of his voice still came across clearly. Momo, with blush of her own across her pretty face, just smiled gently at him. "You're welcome," she said softly before she scooted a bit closer and took his hand in hers. When he turned towards her with a curious and endearingly flushed look on his face, she gave his hand a squeeze of assurance. "Tell me what happened, please," she requested softly. Izuku managed to get control of his flustered state after a few moments, and he looked away from her with a resigned smile on his face. "We had to fight robotic villains in an urban setting for the practical exam. We were separated by training grounds and there were 4 types of villains, each one of them worth a set of points that increased with the amount of difficulty they each had. One of them, however, was a trap villain, and if you faced it would reduce the amount of points you had back to 0. I thought that evading that villain while continuing to fight the other villains wasn't going to be too difficult, thanks to the mantra aspect of Haki. But I wasn't counting on that villain to be bigger than Mount Lady when she used her quirk." Momo's eyes widened as she heard that, but she stayed silent, allowing Izuku to continue. "We were told that the trap villain was going to start to rampage if a crowd formed near where it was. He was the reason why I stayed alone, destroying the villains I found as I ran circles through the training ground. When the 4th villain surfaced, I had already accumulated 95 points. My first thought was that I needed to get away as fast as I could to avoid it, but then I heard the screaming and saw many of the other examinees running away from it. That was when I saw a girl I have just met a few minutes before trapped beneath a piece of debris about to be crushed, and He trailed off, looking down in sadness. Momo lost her wide-eyed look and tilted her head as she smiled in understanding at him. "You went and stopped the trap villain, saving that girl and losing all the points you had accumulated thus far, am I right?" When Izuku nodded in confirmation, Momo sighed in amusement and tapped the side of his head with 2 fingers, getting his attention. She giggled at the wide-eyed and almost betrayed look on his face when he caught the amusement displayed clearly on his face. "I'm sorry, Izuku-kun, but as intelligent as you are still an idiot." "What?" was Izuku's intelligent and eloquent response. Momo giggled cutely again. "Tell me, Izuku-kun, what make a hero? What is it that makes you consider someone truly a hero?" she asked him, expression still amused, but there was no denying the seriousness of the question. Izuku looked on confused for a second before a thoughtful expression appeared on his face. He knew that someone like Katsuki would answer that a true hero was someone with a powerful quirk that always won, so that meant that an answer like that was the wrong one. Instead, He thought about the person he considered to be the best and truest hero of them all, All Might. The answer came immediately. A true hero is someone that can save anyone with a smile on their face no matter the situation. Momo's smile widened. Exactly. Now, I'm sure that all the examinees were closely monitored by examiners to determine to what class they were best suited, taking in consideration their quirk, aptitude, and all that, correct? There was no way in hell that only the ability to destroy robots was what was taken into consideration to be accepted by UA. Besides, there were other courses other than the hero course at the prestigious academy. General education, support, and management were such examples. Izuku nodded in agreement, wondering where she was going with this. That means the examiners saw what you did when you decided to sacrifice your hard-earned points to save a girl that was about to be badly harmed by a villain that had a penalty should you face it, she said, lips twitching as she saw that Izuku was still not getting it. Do you really think UA High School, the heroics academy with most renown in Japan, is not going to accept someone that would willingly do that despite having accumulated the most points in the practical exam? Not only of his own examination division but quite possible out of everyone there taking the exam? She asked him rhetorically, amused expression still in place. Izuku stared at her blankly for a few seconds, blinking slowly. Oh, he said softly in realization before his eyes widened in shock. Oh, he exclaimed as a grin appeared on his face. Hey, you are absolutely right. The practical entrance exams is designed to test our aptitude, and there's more to it than how we can apply our quirks to combat, he stated before an incredulous and annoyed look appeared on his face. That means that present Mike tricked us all. Momo nodded, a pleased smile on her face. More than likely. That situation was surely a test within a test to determine who truly deserves to be accepted, she said, and her smile turned softer as she locked eyes with Izuku. And showed everyone there, and even me, that no one deserves it more than you. Izuku's blush turned to atomic levels at the sincerity of her words and the look of her face. He couldn't form words, so he just murmured thanks and looked away from her in embarrassment, but there was a pleased smile on his face. Giggling, Momo allowed her upper body to mirror Izuku's resting against the mattress. When your mom called me, I thought that you somehow failed because you were unable to meet the passing conditions, but I am glad that you thought you failed because they misled you. I'm really looking forward to becoming a pro hero at your side, you know? Still blushing, Izuku worked up the guts to turn towards her and nodded his head resolutely. I was also looking forward to that, Momo-chan. Thinking that I was going to be unable to attend UA with you was one of the reasons why I was feeling so bad about failing. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart, for making me realize that I was just being an idiot. Momo blushed at his heartfelt words but smiled prettily and cheekily at him. You are very much welcome. I'll make sure to kick your butt into gear every time you find yourself in a pointless funk, she declared with conviction, even adding a wink. Izuku, of course, found the action extremely cute and could only blush and stammer. Momo giggled before she shot to his feet, and that was when Izuku finally noticed what she was wearing. A long-sleeved cream-colored wool turtleneck sweater, jeans that looked almost painted on, and mid-calf high boots. She looked very good on that get-up, and the moment that thought went through Izuku's head, steam poured out from his ears and nose, and he looked away, lest she saw the way he was looking at her and thought that he was nothing but a worthless pervert. Unknown to Izuku, Momo too was subtly checking him out, and unlike him, she was not ashamed to saw that she very much liked what she saw. He was taller than her, and he was very attractive, which was a mighty plus in her books. His muscles were very noticeable thanks to the fact that he was only wearing a white shirt and black shorts. But more than that, it was his selfless nature and intelligence that called out to her. Oh, did she mention that he looked good enough to eat too? Yeah? Okay then, it's official, she thought to himself with resigned amusement and self-exasperation. I like him. I could do much worse, however, so this not too difficult to accept, she thought sardonically as she looked at him as he stood up, this time not averting her eyes when he was bent over at the waist while he rose. Ugh, I don't know if his cluelessness is endearing or annoying, but I can't complain when things like this happen now, can I? As a woman, her thoughts were not reflected in her cheerful expression as she looked up at him, her hands locked behind her back. I'll let you get changed and wait for you in the living room. Izuku blinked curiously. Get changed? Momo's lips twitched upwards as she regarded him with fond exasperation. Of course, Izuku-kun. Or did you perhaps forgot that we were supposed to hang out today to celebrate you getting accepted at UA and me moving in, Izuku's eye widened and he waved his hands frantically. Of course not. Give me 15 minutes and I'll get ready. With a fond shake of her hand, Momo nodded at him and stepped out of the room, closing it behind her. The moment she was out of the room, Izuku sighed and let himself fall on the bed with a dreamy smile on his face as he looked at the ceiling. Who would have thought that a conversation with a girl he just met a week ago was what he needed to get out of his funk? Not only that, but she made him see that he not getting accepted into UA for doing exactly what was expected of the profession they prepared you for was foolish at the very least. It was like she knew exactly what to say and how to say it. Not even his mom had managed to do anything else other than console him and assure him that everything was going to be alright. It's official, he thought to himself with a blush as he shot up from his bed and began to discard his clothes to take a quick shower in order to kill any chances of him smelling bad. I like her. Tashinori Yagi stepped out of the examination viewing room with a grin on his sunken face. He was still high on watching Izuku's performance yesterday, and hearing everyone singing praises to him also helped. Izuku had taken his first successful step on becoming a hero, and he was already shaping up to be what All Might envisioned him as, the next symbol of peace, and he dares say, something even more than that. The one that came closer to his score was his friend, Bakugo-kun, with 77 points, and young Midoriya-kun got more than twice that easily. Hell, he even surpassed my own score when I took the practical exam. But that's to be expected, he thought to himself as he walked through UA grounds. There was carefree air around him that those who knew the burden he carried on his shoulders would be shocked to see, but won't be too surprised to see after it was explained to them that he had finally found a successor that was more than worthy. Character-wise, Yagi had no doubts that Izuku was more than perfect for one for all. He already embodied the true meaning of being a hero. Even better, it wasn't taught to him but rather it was instinctual. If that wasn't enough, Izuku possessed a quirk that complemented one for all almost perfectly. Honestly, if All Might was someone that believed in things like that, he would have thought that Izuku was born precisely to one day inherit it. Instead, All Might just chalked it up to coincidence. He is even worthier than Togata-kun. Even Principal Nedzu agreed if that impressed, and please nod he gave me was anything to go by. He thought with a grin as he slipped his hands into the pockets of his pants. He sobered up a bit at the thought of the third year with the premiation quirk, which led him to think about his old sidekick and the strained relationship they still maintained even after more than half a decade of not even speaking to each other. I think it's a good time I did something about that, he pondered to himself. After a few moments, Yagi nodded to himself and a resolute look appeared on his sunken face as he decided that it was about time that he reconciled with his old sidekick. It was his fault that they parted ways in such a callous manner, so it was his job to make the first approach on rekindling their relationship. He just hoped that the time they spent together gave him enough of a chance to be given a second opportunity by him, even though Yagi thought that he didn't even deserve that for making his old sidekick despair so much for not listening to him when he warned him what was going to happen if he continued as he was. All Might knew that it was nothing but pride on himself and what he had accomplished, becoming the symbol of peace and hope for the people and the deterrent for villains to act up, that prevented him from listening. And after all that time, and finally passing down one for all to someone that was surely to become even greater than himself, Yagi summarized that it was nigh time set things straight between them and hopefully go back to the way they were before. Yeah, I'll go later during the week, he promised to himself, knowing that with the culmination of the entrance exam happening just yesterday he was going to be very busy. Thinking of the examination exams made him think of his chosen successor, and an unsure look appeared on his face. Knowing Izuku, he was probably beating himself up over not passing and disappointing him. He said probably, because he knew that Izuku was extremely intelligent, so there was also a chance that he deduced the test within the test. Still, knowing about his tendency to focus on one thing would prevent him from realizing it. In the end it won't really matter. He'll be getting his acceptance letter 5 days from now. A few days of moping around have never killed someone. Besides, I reckon that'll be a good prank we can both laugh about later, he thought to himself with an unrepentant grin as he began to whistle an upbeat tune. Let it be known that All Might, also known as Tashinori Yagi, had really cruel and messed up sense of humor. Other than the first day after the entrance examination, in which he spent most of it in a gloomy mood, the rest of Izuku's week went by in fairly high spirits after Momo, and he explained to Inko the misunderstanding and that there was no way Izuku was not going to be accepted by Yue after what he did. To Izuku's dismay, and Momo's amusement, Inko had started to bawl her eyes out in happiness after attempting to suffocate Izuku with her strongest hug yet. After that ordeal, when she was told that they were going to hang out, Inko had promptly kicked them out of the house, all the while squealing like a schoolgirl over the fact that Izuku was so close to a girl as beautiful as Momo, who obviously had her son in high regards. If the she had basically rushed to comfort him was anything to go by. Izuku also had gone back to training with the same intensity that he did during the final stages of the 10 months training spree that he enjoyed under the tutelage of All Might. It, of course, didn't include cleaning up tons of garbage while working on his control over One for All's output. Not it included sparring matches, hopeless attempts to not get smacked around by the number one hero, really. But he still managed to keep up his physique thanks to the specialized equipment All Might procured for him. He still had the membership at the local gym, but he doubted that he was going to use it. With the new equipment it was pointless, and the best part was that his mother could also use it, meaning that even though the money they spent on that was unnoticeable on their coffers, the two of them were not fans of unnecessary spending of any kind. Despite knowing that there was no way he was not accepted by Yue after his performance, Izuku steadily became more nervous at the fact that he had not been contacted by All Might during the past week. He had texted him, explaining the situation, and when All Might had not answered the texts, not even reading them, he had feared the worst and that his and Momo's reasoning had been just wishful thinking, because going by All Might's actions, the number one hero was more than likely disappointed and angry at him. Unwilling to think like that, Izuku had focused on other things, like his training and other, more socially inclined endeavors. For example, Izuku not only spent the time he was free texting and hanging out with Momo, he also interacted through text messages with Ochako. Well, when she wasn't apologizing for being at fault for him almost not being accepted at UA and him reassuring her that it wasn't the case, they managed to strike what Izuku felt was a good friendship. It wasn't of course at the level he had with Momo, but Izuku helped that he grew to be as close as that with her. Not having even one true friend his age in the time period between his fallout with Katsuki and meeting Momo, left Izuku with a genuine desire to make friends, true friends, and he felt that with Momo and also Ochako, he was well on his way on achieving that. Currently, Izuku was shadow sparring in the room of the apartment they set for housing the equipment All Might had procured for his training. It was supposed to be a bedroom, as their apartment possessed 3 of them, but since there only lived 2 people there, it had not been used until he started his tutelage under the number one hero. The room was spacious, allowing him to keep all the equipment along with giving him enough room to move around comfortably while shadow sparring. Over his workout clothes he was wearing one of the sets of weights and vest combo that All Might procured for him. They restricted his movement in such a way that they simulated being weighted down, allowing for an increase in difficulty and intensity without many of the risks of using conventional weights. Suddenly, the door of the room was opened and Inko barged in with an excited look on her face and a sealed letter grasped in her hand. "Izuku! It's here!" she declared with a grin before she disappeared into the house. Izuku blinked and laughed as he took off the weights and vest off his person, sighing in relief as he felt the restriction it put on his movement leaving him as he did so. "She's even more excited than I am," he said in amusement as he took off his shirt, used a towel to dry himself, and then put on a fresh shirt. He walked out of the room and went towards the living room where he saw his mother jumping around and the letter set on the table. "Izuku! Hurry up! Open it! Open it!" she prompted him with an almost maniacal expression on her face. Izuku, in his innocence about anything pertaining his loving and doting mother, thought that she was merely exited. It never occurred to him that she wanted to see if her plans for increasing the odds of Izuku giving her a lot of grandbabies was still doable, despite all of the assurances that she was given by both her son and Momo. With a laugh, Izuku sat on the floor, knowing that if he did on the couch with his damp shorts from working out his mother would kill him, and gently opened the letter and let a circular device with a projector on top fall on the table. It promptly activated, and he flinched. His mother shrieked in shock too, when All Might's grinning mug appeared out of nowhere. "Testing 1, 2, he said as he looked at the camera. He then looked up as he was apparently signaled something. "Am I on screen already? Okay, All Might? The hell? Wasn't the envelope sent from UA headquarters? What was All Might doing there then? Wait, did that mean? Sorry for not contacting you during the week, young Midoriya-kun. I was very busy, after all. Besides, I saw your messages and figured that you didn't need to be reassured since you apparently worked out the real test beneath the test you took. I'm glad, but not surprised. Ha 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 ha," he declared with an epic flourish that ended in a bow. Izuku's eyes twitched in irritation. That bastard. He knew. Ahem. Now, I believe we will be seeing a lot of each other since I will be working at UA as a teacher. An artery popped up on Izuku's forehead as his lips and eyebrow twitched. Yep. I'm going to kill him. Izuku's current, annoyed state was such that for that moment, he forgot the fact that he had yet to touch All Might in one of their sparring sessions. His self-declared mission was doomed to fail even before he made the attempt to carry it out. The angle suddenly changed and All Might was being recorded from his left profile. A hand appeared from the edge of the projection, prompting All Might to turn his head back to look at the correct camera. "What's that, citizen? Turn to face camera 2? I was in the middle of telling the kids something important. You'll fix it in post-production? Alright then, that works." Izuku's sweat dropped at the silliness. A glance to his mother showed that she was still in shock at All Might's sudden appearance. "As you should know, you aced the written test with almost a perfect score. That was impressive, but that alone does not secure entrance to this prestigious academy. You had scored 95 points, an amount unheard of ever since the current practical portion of the entrance exam was established, until you went on and willingly faced a trap villain that you were told would reduce your points back to 0 should you do precisely that. That would mean that you failed." As All Might trailed off to give suspense to his words, Izuku's eyes began to twitch once again in irritation. The fact that his mother was now biting her nails was not helping matters at all. Had you lot not been tricked to think that, in order to test your true mettle against that kind of odds, there was no such penalty in facing that faux villain? That villain was merely worth 0 points, nothing more and nothing less. That means that you have not lost any points, meaning that you indeed managed to get more than enough points to get a passing grade. When he heard that, Izuku sighed in relief at the confirmation that he had made it in, and he grinned when his mother cheered with a loud yes, as she began to cutely jump in place while singing him praises and declaring how awesome he was. Despite there not being anyone else with them, other than the holographic projection of All Might who could not see them, Izuku blushed in embarrassment at his mother's actions. But that's not all. The two turned towards the projection again, and they saw All Might now holding a controller of some kind as he pointed it at a screen that was behind him. "Just so you know, I was likely an entertainer in another life. Behold, this screen," he said epically before he pressed the bottom and turned the screen behind him on. Izuku's eyes widened when he saw the determined face of Ochako. "Ochako-chan?" Inko began to smile in delight as she saw that Izuku knew another girl that was just as cute as Momo. "Oh, this is turning out to be better than expected. Double the grandbabies, perhaps? I can't wait. Excuse me, hello?" she said, her nervous words not matching the sure look on her face. She was speaking to Present Mike, to whom Izuku glared at for lying so blatantly and convincingly those that took the exam, who was looking at her with a curious, but knowing, smile on his face. "As soon as the test ended, this little lady went to us directly and requested something." "What, you ask? Keep watching to find out. Sorry to bother you, but do you remember the tall and muscular guy with curly black hair and green highlights? He has freckles on his face. Oh, he was the one that rampaged through the street the moment the entrance started and the one that destroyed that giant robot just before the exam finished. Do you know of whom I'm talking about?" Izuku blinked in shock. "That's me for sure." "What is she doing?" Inko, however, paid attention to other things. She smiled slyly as she went and nudged Izuku suggestively. "Tall and muscular, eh? First Momo-chan and now this Ochako-chan, who is just as cute. Is my dear and innocent Izuku-chan turning into a womanizer now, Izuku blushed and his head snapped to the side so fast that he almost broke his neck. He waved his hands around frantically as steam poured from all the orifices on his head. What are you talking about, Mom? It's not like that, I swear. Inko merely giggled, pinched his cheek affectionately, and went back to focus on the projection, prompting the thoroughly embarrassed Izuku to do the same. Would it be possible to give my points to him? She asked, shocking both Izuku and Inko to speechlessness as they stared wide-eyed at the screen. A determined glare appeared on her face as Ochako went on. He was the coolest out there when the exam began, and I'm sure that he was the one with the most points out of all of us. He had every reason to not face the trap villain and none to jump in and face off against it, and yet he did so to save my life. He lost all his points because of me. So please give him my points because, slowly, tears gathered at the corner of Izuku's eyes as All Might began to speak. Let this be a lesson, young Midoriya-kun. Know that beyond a powerful quirk, which you have twice over, is your noble and selfless actions that touch people. There's no one else that deserves to be accepted by you more than him. Never forget that. As he began to cry tears of pure joy, Izuku ignored All Might, explaining that the judges were looking at more than just your combat abilities with your respective quirk, and how he went to explain that Yui would never reject a student for sacrificing himself to do the right thing. Instead, he focused on the expression of absolute joy and relief that appeared on Ochako's face when President Mike told her that there was no need to give him points, as he explained to her the true meaning of the exam. Izuku Midoriya earned 164 points after taking into account the amount of rescue points he acquired through the test. And since you were also willing to sacrifice yourself to do the right thing, you have earned yourself 20 rescue points, which would sum up a total of 66 points. Congratulations, you both passed the exam with flying colors. But I request you don't tell him that, since only certified personnel of UA such as me can disclose the test results before they are sent to everyone. Do try to reassure him as subtly as you can manage, however. That kid looked mighty depressed when he walked away from here, you dig? Said President Mike with a pleased grin as he patted Ochako's head almost as if she was a cute chipmunk or something. So that's why she always wrote almost whenever she apologized, he thought fondly as a soft smile appeared on his face as he continued to look at her. You know, started Inko as she too looked at the happy expression on Ochako's face as she cheered for both their success. I just learned this girl's name, but I think I love her. She commented idly with a soft and grateful smile on her face. Yeah, replied Izuku absently as he nodded his head, a similar smile on his face as he watched Ochako energetically wave goodbye at President Mike before walking away with spring in her step. Me too. You have earned the most points in the history of US practical exams ever since the academy was founded, said All Might epically as he made a fist in front of his face and flexed his muscles, almost tearing his stripped suit apart as he did so. As his grin widened and Izuku caught how proudful that grin was as he seemed to look directly at Izuku's eyes. You certainly went plus ultra and showed everyone here what you are made of and what it means to be a true hero. So, needless to say, welcome to your hero academia, Izuku Midoriya. Izuku, hey, Momo-chan. I just got my acceptance letter. Did you get yours too? Momo, I did. I was put in the heroes course class 1A. What about you? Izuku, same. That means that we are going to be in the same class. That's awesome. D. Momo, yeah, me too. That way we can more easily help each other out. D. Izuku, that's right. Hey, don't tell anyone this, but All Might is going to be a faculty member at UA, and I think that there is a high possibility that we will be receiving regular lessons from him directly. Isn't that cool? Momo, what? That's super cool. But wait a second. Something like that would have certainly made the news if it was public knowledge. How are you so sure of that, Izuku-kun? Izuku, well, he was the one that told me I was accepted at UA through the acceptance letter that was sent to me. Momo, really? Oh, I'm so jealous. Principal Nedzu was the one to tell me that I have been accepted. He is cool and all, but he is not All Might. That's not fair. Why would you get him? Izuku, Momo, Izuku-kun? You there? Izuku, I think it was because I got the most points out of everyone there, and it was some sort of bonus prize for accomplishing that. Hehe. Momo, that makes sense. How many points did you get, by the way? I think you told me, but I forgot the exact amount. 90-something, right? Izuku, 164 actually. Momo, really? But how? Izuku, yeah. Remember that I jumped in to save a girl from being crushed by the trap villain? Well, turns out that not only my points weren't deducted, but I was given 69 rescue points for jumping in to save her despite what I at that time to be the worst possible consequences for me. Momo, Izuku-kun, that's almost more than twice the amount what All Might himself got when he took the entrance exam. I think it was 92 or something around that. Izuku, 91 actually. 70 villain points and 21 rescue points, I believe. Momo, of course, you would know those details, Izuku-kun. Izuku, hehe. Momo, tongue sticking out. Izuku, oh, I almost forgot to tell you. Remember that girl I saved? Her name is Ochako Uraraka, and after the exam she went and told President Mike that she wanted to give her points to me because she felt guilty over what happened. Can you believe that? Momo, really? Oh my god, that's so nice. I don't even know what she looks like, but I already love her. Izuku, yeah. Me too. I want to thank her in person for what she did because doing so by text would be, I don't know, as if I didn't really appreciate the intention behind her actions. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Momo, I think that would be best, but at least let her know somehow that you know what she did so you don't catch her by surprise when you thank her. While you do that, I'll hug her to death for being so nice. Izuku, I'll do that, and hey, I get to hug her first. You don't even know her. Momo, girl and girl dibs. Izuku-kun. Izuku, is that even a thing? Momo, it is now. Izuku, ugh, fine. Humph. Even though she already knew that she had passed, receiving the acceptance letter and having it confirmed that she was indeed going to be attending the hero course, Class 1A, sent a pulse of joy through Ochako's entire body. Even though the main reason for wanting to become a hero was so she could earn enough money to help her parents' life comfortably without them needing to work as much as they do, Ochako also had a genuine desire to use her quirk to help others. Zero gravity was a quirk too useful to let it be wasted on anything else. Her celebrating was brought to an abrupt halt when she felt her phone vibrating from the pocket of her shorts, and she reached for it. She perked up when she saw that the message came from Deku-kun, and she hurried on to unlock her phone, so she could read the message. When she did so, her face turned white as an expression of horror appeared before it turned into one of extreme embarrassment, as her face went from chalk white to tomato red in record time. He knows what I did. Steam poured out from her ears as she jumped to her bed and squealed in desperation, incredulity and mortification into her pillow as she pressed it against her face and rolled from one end of her mattress to the other in her embarrassment. Oh my god, he knows. He probably thinks that I'm some kind of weirdo. Someone kill me now, please. Kia! Thud. Oi. Ochako rubbed her head where she had hit when she collided with the floor after falling from her bed after she miscalculated the distance it had when her mortification reached a boiling point. Next to her, her cell phone had fallen screen side up and there was a conversation displaying the last message she received. It read, Deku-kun, I almost didn't accept it. Tashinori was looking at the beautiful sunset that could be appreciated from the Dagoba Municipal Beach Park when he perked up as he buffed up, turned around, spread his leg and raised his guard to cover his face. It was a good thing he did that because not a moment later, Izuku appeared in front of him, right arm covered up to halfway up his biceps cocked back, with an annoyed expression on his face. All Might, you sadistic bastard! He shouted in anger as he let loose a devastating punch that generated a shockwave that kicked up sand the moment it connected with All Might's forearm. As he was pushed back, All Might winced slightly, which was thankfully hidden by his arms, as his feet carved a trench in the sand of the beach. I knew there was a reason my instincts told me to dodge his attacks instead of blocking them, or even parrying them. For fuck's sake, they hurt like a bitch even if they are only covered with armament Haki. I do not envy that robot that got hit by his first gear, he thought with a healthy dose of incredulity. When he finally stopped being pushed back after a few hundred feet or so, he lowered his arms slightly and allowed Izuku a glimpse of his grinning face, seemingly showing him that his punch did nothing. Are you going to get into the habit of surprise attacks, young Midoriya-kun? Commendable against villains, of course, but against your mentor and future teacher at your school I find it to be a bit disrespectful. All Might suddenly spread his arms wide and sent Izuku flying away, and he went further thanks to the strong winds generated by All Might's actions. Still, Izuku took in stride and he merely righted himself with a backflip and he landed halfway before he reached where All Might been standing when he attacked him. He rose to his feet and glared at said mentor and future teacher, his smoking blackened fist shaking as his entire face twitched in anger. You knew that I was going to be accepted and said nothing. What if I didn't deduce the true meaning of the test by myself, huh? All Might rested his feet on his waist and threw his head back as he laughed loudly. But that was nothing but a masterful and harmless prank from my part. I knew that you were going to get it on your own eventually, so I wasn't worried. Ha ha! A vein popped from Izuku's forehead as he grit his teeth. It took a friend of mine basically spelling it to me that I wasn't going to not be accepted for doing the right thing, you asshole. If it weren't for her, I would have spent the entire week crying and moping around for being a failure. A week without working out. Do you what that means, huh? All Might shrugged uncaringly. I have gone more than a week without exercising. 2 weeks with double the difficulty and intensity of the workout you were doing before the hiatus, and you are back to the level you were at before. There was nothing to worry about. Besides, you turned man enough to admit that you were crying. I think my prank turned out to be a good thing, yes? Izuku roared in rage as his other arm and both legs were covered by armament. Green lightning began to arch from his body as he glared at All Might as a green reminiscent of Katsuki's when he got especially angry appeared on his face. I'm going to kill you! All Might tooted at Izuku as he waved his index finger from side to side in the universal no motion. Young Midoriya-kun, you have to get rid of the villainous attitude. It's going to do you no good if you let yourself be ruled by Dash. All Might was rudely and suddenly interrupted when he had to duck in order to avoid a roundhouse kick courtesy of Izuku that would have surely sent him sprawling had he decided to block it. Oops. Not good. Catch me if you can, young Midoriya-kun. Get over here and take your punishment as a man. And thus, a random couple that was enjoying the romantic atmosphere was treated to the extremely bizarre sight of a laughing All Might mocking a teenager with green arcs of lightning arching from his body and his arms covered in some sort of black substance, as he dodged the angry and lethal-looking attacks of said teenager seemingly with no effort as said teenager bellowed curse after curse to the number one hero, who just responded with more working words, even something a condescending advice, on how he could make his attacks more effective. The woman turned towards her partner with an inscrutable look on her face after she watched All Might disappear into the distance followed by the teenager. I know this is just our third date, but you are so getting laid tonight, she said simply. That day Izuku unknowingly got his most loyal fan and supporter after unknowingly, and somehow helping have sex with the girl of his dreams after almost 2 months of chatting her up and a measly 2 dates after he managed to convince her to go out with him. For a true hero helped anyone one, no matter what they needed. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey today. I hope you enjoyed exploring the fascinating what-if scenario of Deku. The possibilities were truly mind-blowing. If you found this video entertaining, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Your support means the world to me and inspires me to bring you more captivating content in the future. Stay tuned for more exciting what-if stories and other amazing videos coming your way. Until next time, take care, stay curious.